Hi, this is Johnny Nexus, the editor and chief writer of Critical Miss, the webzine for dysfunctional gamers. I'm also the author of the Emmy-nominated novel Game Night. Critical Miss aims to cover the less serious side of pen and paper role-playing. We're frequently rude, occasionally thought-provoking, usually funny, and hopefully always entertaining. After a hibernation of 5 years, we've just published a long-awaited 11th issue. Please check it out at www.criticalmiss.com. Thanks.
RPPR, episode 63, Stylish Substance.
I came up with that.
I know, you did.
I also noticed the announcer voice didn't kick in until after you were mostly all the way through that.
I know. It's
like he was running back from the bathroom, oh God, I'm supposed to be on now.
I know. And we're too hardcore to re-record this, so you'll just have to deal with it.
Life does not start.
That's my new motto. Deal with it. So, of course, with me, as always, is Tom Church. And
hey, what's up?
Here, we've fully recovered from Gen Con. I've been posting the Gen Con games. We've just posted the Fiasco and the World War I game with Scott Glantz and Caleb and
Aeroplanes.
Yes, aeroplanes. And so we're going to get...
nothing bad happens in airplanes.
Well, not to Caleb and I. We're fucking gunning those sons of bitches down.
It's like, oh, you think you're bad, Cthulhu, huh?
We
bitch?
both had sharp-edged dice, Tom. We both did. So... things die.
That's better than an elder sign.
In this game, it was. So, anyways, we will start posting the Wild Talents campaign and the Eclipse Phase campaign very...
it's good stuff.
Putting a lot of them down the stream very shortly. And we will, of course, we'll still intersperse it with some one-shots. And we just ran some Call of Cthulhu Invectus set in ancient Rome, so look forward to that. We have a lot in the plans. In RPPR news, the only thing of note is Zombies of the World, Episode 3 of the web series is up. It'll be embedded in the notes of this show. And you can click on the website and take a look at it. I put some lightning bolt effects in it. There's a robot fighting an Aztec mummy. It's
sadly, the Aztec mummy is extinct.
It is. So you can see some of the rare archival footage, some of the last moments ever caught on film of the Aztec mummy. So
it will blow your mind.
It will. It really will.
And this is not news, but I'd just like to give another big thanks to my friend Miatel on the fanfic.net forums. She is writing stuff for the sci-fi game I'm running with the other group.
Yeah.
So she's taking my ideas that are written in my, monotone pig voice of a writing style, and putting it into her own sonorous, dreamy.
Tom, are you fishing for compliments about your fan fiction?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, sure.
Though if you,
yeah,
if you have anything positive to say, anything negative to say, I'll
no, constructive criticism. That's what you want, Tom.
Which actually is a rare commodity, apparently, on fanfic.net.
Right.
Because most people...
I can give you constructive
criticism. Most people don't know how to criticize.
I know, but I can't.
But I want to thank her. Just want to thank you again. You took my crap and have turned it into your art.
You've turned my straw that is my writing and spun it into gold. Oh! Yes.
That's pretty hardcore, Ross.
Yeah, see what I did there? See?
Yeah, I know. I've read Rumpelstiltskin, too.
It's called, anyway, storytelling. So, in this episode, we are going to be talking about adventure design, scenario design.
Now, we've talked about this before.
Well, of course, it's a big topic, though. I mean, it's like the social contract. I mean, but in this episode, we're not going to... Previously, we've kind of focused on writing the adventure as a standalone thing, the one-shot where everything is new. And... there's a lot, and we can do a lot about it. We're going to talk about this more in upcoming episodes as well. It's talking about writing adventures for a campaign, which is kind of like, I think, what most adventures are written for. You do a one-shot, that's fine, but, most people are writing campaigns people that are writing adventures are writing adventures for their campaigns because, you need a lot of them in order to have a campaign in the first place.
We've discovered that.
Yeah. So the question is, how do you do this? And how do you keep this interesting? And you have to one thing difference between writing a campaign adventure and writing a standalone adventure is campaign adventure. You have all this material you build up, and you have to keep reinforcing. You can't just keep making shit up. But and we'll get into that in future episodes. But the first thing I want to talk about in this episode, stylish substance, is the idea of design versus style. And a lot of people mix these up, and I see a lot of people thinking that there's, it's very common, especially in people that think that there's the one true way of, writing adventures and role-playing games. And the fact is that there really isn't. There are some things you always want to do regardless of what type of adventure you're going to doing, but there are some choices that are based on your style, your personal style as a GM, and the style of the genre or the game that you're running.
Right.
So now this came up because as I mentioned just a little while ago, is we have the Wild Talents campaign. That's the one I'm running. That's superheroes, and I'm doing a street level campaign, and I little air quotes there because we've had some debate over this.
That was some very sarcastic air quotes too.
And a little head bob there and eye rolling because we've had some debate on the RPPR forums about what constitutes street level, and some people think Batman basically or something like that. But for me, street level, I was going for Spider-Man street level, which is confined to one sort of home. There are some superpowers, some major superpowers, but their motives, what they do and what they want to do, is the heroes and the villains are very relatable. They're very kind of like, I want to protect the neighborhood because I have guilt over my uncle's death. I want to rob a bank because I want to be rich. They're not like Doctor Doom is obviously not a street level character.
No,
but
he wants to rule the world as
Doc Octopus is a street level character because he wants revenge on Peter Parker and a few things like that. Like, even though they're both genius intellects and everything. So anyway, so I've been running that Wild Talents campaign, and then Caleb, he of Lover in the Ice and Bryson Springs,
love Caleb.
Yes, everybody loves Caleb. Has been running for the last few months an Eclipse Phase campaign that we are in the second tier of. We started in Venus, we're now on Luna. And he's been running it with some, the adventures are all very well designed, but there are some stylistic changes. And it made me realize, my style isn't the universal style. I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Because, I haven't played in a campaign in like fucking forever. So I kind of forgot, like, oh, yeah, people can do things differently and it's not wrong. Ross is not always right.
The horrible monster in Ross rebels at this.
I know, exactly. So, So when we're talking about this, we're going to first define our terms because we're the first thing is good design. And by good design we mean choices you make when designing an adventure that you should always use regardless of genre. We came up with 3 examples just so you get a sense of what we're going for. The first one is no consistent railroading, and by this we mean you don't railroad the players from the entire start of the game
from start to finish. You don't have them on a leash,
right? You don't want, because otherwise it's obviously you're just telling them a story. You're not really letting them play a game. So yeah. Anyways, so the idea is with this, what are you going to? But we'll get into why we specifically said consistent railroading. So the next thing, good design choice, is that there should be plot progression, which means
move the story and the game forward.
Right. I know we've had some horror stories, where people have told us, like, we were playing a game and then we got to this one area and nothing happened and we didn't know what to do. The GM wouldn't tell us, and 2 hours later, the game ended and the campaign ended. So that sucks.
Yeah, if you notice if the players aren't moving things forward, and they're just not doing it, you gotta jump in there and do it.
Right. So,
so that may be a little bit railroading, but sometimes you have to.
Well, yeah, but in general, it's always a good design choice to have the plot progress. And I know this sounds very basic because good design choices these apply regardless of what you're trying to do. And the third thing is that you should violate player expectations occasionally. And this is kind of where
occasionally seems to be the thing that people have a problem with.
Right. Now, what we mean is that the players should not always expect, their expectation should be, challenged or shaken or violated every once in a while, because that's while this is a game, it's also a good story, and stories violate expectations. That's the whole point, is that there is change.
Like, if you can tell the ending of a game in the beginning, that's not a good thing.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it shouldn't be the obvious thing. For example, if you have a story about a guy who always loses, and he loses throughout the entire story, and it ends with him losing, and he doesn't change, then why did we watch the story? Or inversely, a guy who always wins, a character that always wins. The character always succeeds in everything. They never have any problems. They never change. They're the exact same at the beginning, at the end as they are at the beginning.
And by the way, I've never even heard of anyone like that.
Right.
In my life.
Right. In real life, that doesn't happen yet. People change. But of course, in fan fiction, this is the Mary Sue syndrome, the invisible Uber character, and that's why it's bad storytelling. So you need to violate their expectations occasionally, but if you do it, you can't do it always. You can't always violate their expectations. You can't
because if they can never predict anything that's going to happen.
Yeah,
then they're going to lose interest.
You lose immersion, and that sucks. And if you never violate expectations, we just explain it. You're level 1 scrubs, and everybody hates you, and the universe hates you, and you're always going to lose. And round 1, you fight 1. There's Beholder, and it kills you. Okay, my new characters. Second fight, 100 golems show up, and they kick your ass.
After
mind flayers.
After about 15 minutes, you're going to be reciting this to an empty room.
Yeah, after your third round of player characters, after your third party wipe, you're going to be like, yeah, we'll
we're going to go get some beer.
We understand we know what to expect now. We're not interested.
It's but we don't want to keep dying.
Yeah. So
what the fuck you talking about? People want.
So design choices are kind of harder a little more loose because again, these should be applied to whatever game you're doing. Now the other thing is style choices. Style choices are choices that are dependent on who you are as a GM, what your style is, and also what the game is, what kind of theme you want to use, what kind of thematic stuff. Now railroading. So we'll just contrast these with the design choices. So railroading. So sometimes you do want to railroad players. Yeah. Now they're like, oh my god, So Tom, when would you railroad players?
Well, I've already mentioned one. If they're just not doing anything, or if they're not going anywhere, if they're thoroughly hung up on something,
right?
Like they've reached a plot point that they've done what they need to,
right?
But they just no, we missed something.
Yeah.
And no matter how much evidence you put before them, they keep on, no, we missed something else. We're going to look again. Well, you've looked around for the 12th time and you still haven't.
Has this happened to your group?
Yes, I'm talking from experience.
Do you have an example or a specific?
Well, I don't want to name names. But
Player A.
Yes, they were actually, in the sci-fi game I'm running, actually.
Yeah.
They come across a ship adrift in space.
Yeah.
They go aboard and find that there's obviously signs of violence, but there's no bodies on the ship.
Right.
And they find that they get the ship's log and have the ship's flight information, which is really all they were supposed to get, but they would not leave the ship. And there's something else here. So the first time you think, okay, well they're being thorough, so I let it go. But then they go through the ship. They go through the whole ship another time. Still, they don't find anything. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe now they got it. But no, we missed something. We'll go again. And I counted 8 times they went around the ship, just convinced there was something they missed.
Wow.
So finally, I have to just. So in order to railroad them, I just said. The reactor's coolant system had been shut down, and now it's starting to reach critical mass. So you have to get off the ship.
Fuck you! Get on. Get
that
on
worked.
To the plot. Yeah.
That worked. They get off the ship, evacuated, and the ship exploded. It was really cool and awesome. And then they moved on. And the thing is, as they left, they were still saying, "We probably missed something on that ship." But I actually, and I quote, said, well, I guess we'll never know now, will we?
What would be funny is if you later on you make up some plot point and you say, because you missed us on the ships, and now this
And they'd
is
be
why
like, oh, I knew we missed something.
some asshole with a ray gun pointing at them and like, it's, twirling his mustache like, I fooled you again because you missed that one clue.
But that's one moment when they just won't take the hint.
Yeah. So occasionally you do want to railroad. You want to move the game forward. And of course, conversely, with plot progression, sometimes you want to stop. Like in a mystery game, and this is very common among GMs in the sort of what the self-described old school style, not just D&D, but especially Call of Cthulhu, which is to never use a poker face when running the game, never give the players any hints, never step in front of the screen and be like, here's what you need to do, or blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
An old school GM would literally let the players search the ship a dozen times and just never give them any warning whatsoever one way or the other. Now, Scott Glancy, of course, has talked about this at great lengths because listeners, the Charlie Chaplin,
story.
The Chaplin incident where he let the players go on this 4-hour tangent to fucking hunt down Charlie Chaplin and his friends and murder as many of them as possible. And that's the kind of thing that that's a stylistic choice. If you want to be that guy, the choice to not let the players go mad with because the reason why it's a style choice and not a design choice is because that's the kind of game you want to run. Like, you want to run a game that's more cinematic, where the plot progresses in relatively smooth fashion. The players see explosions, and that's cool, and they have all this kind of interaction.
I do give them choices.
Yeah,
and I'm ready for any. I try to be ready for any contingency.
Right. Yeah, you want to be interactive. It's not utterly railroading. Just you want to keep moving. But the other thing is the other style choice is the old school, where players have to earn everything, emphasize realism as much as possible, and just let them, make it a contest of will almost between the players and the GM. And that's a valid style. A lot of people like that. They think that your style of gaming is too soft, too easy. What's the point of playing if it's too easy? I mean, you played a video game that's been too easy. Video games that have been too easy. You're like, oh, fuck it, this is boring. They want to be challenged by it. So that's why they choose that style of gaming. At least that's how I interpret it. So,
speaking of, I just this weekend had the sci-fi game round 2. Mm-hmm. This is the second time I've tried to run it. It's going well now, by the way. But I actually had one where the plot literally did just stop because they really liked the scene. David's character, that game this is a different game than the one they searched the ship 12 times. Okay. So David's character is a musician.
Yeah.
And one of the plot points is they were going aboard this station and he had a gig to play.
Right.
So, and it was really just the whole point of the scene was he would do his gig while Aaron's character would gather information and a contract on their next job. Mm-hmm. But David and even Aaron got really into him setting up and doing the set.
Yeah.
And interacting with some people in the bar, and a scene I had only planned to last about 5 or 6 minutes went on into an hour.
Right.
But it was clicking, so I let it go. So I just stopped everything and let them play out what they wanted to.
Right. So there you go. That's a style choice. You could have, if you're a different style, you could have had guys with guns burst in and ruin it. Or you could just say, you could have just literally heard it, Mom, all right, make your dice roll. Come on, we need to go on, But you're like, all right, no, they want to do this, so this is what I want to emphasize in the game.
I mean, they talked to some patrons.
Yeah.
He signed a few autographs because he rolled really well and is entertaining.
Yeah.
But it didn't amount to anything, but they had a great time.
Right.
So I think that's important too.
So yeah, and again, that's that you let them slow down. You're in the school. Your style is to let the players have more agency over what happens in the game. Give them more control over that, and make it more collaborative than not necessarily competitive, but less adversarial. So that's a style choice.
Well, okay,
it's not right, it's not wrong, but it's just a style. So
okay, by the way, I did do some railroading.
Yeah.
Because the first session that game started out, Aaron managed to thoroughly piss off and insult David's character. So, basically, 2/3 of the whole group, essentially were pissed at each other and didn't want to do stuff together. So I had to actually engineer a whole scenario where, okay, I got to get these people back together.
Right. So that's kind of, again, that's you want to make sure everybody's on the same wavelength, that everybody's their characters are working together. And an old school GM would not have, it's like plot moves on whether or not you guys are ready to work with each other or not. I mean, this is the real world, the real world of gaming. So you have to find a way to work together despite that. So, but instead, you decide no, players need to cooperate. So,
I mean, great times. I mean, and off topic, but a cool moment.
right?
In the last session, Aaron got his arm blown off.
Okay,
I'm using the Cyberpunk combat system,
okay,
which I'm finding works really well. And someone did 20 damage to one arm,
yeah,
so that blew it right off.
yeah. That would tend to do that. So,
And thing is, Aaron loved it.
yeah,
And everyone did, because it's future tech, so he just got a cloned arm replacement.
right.
But he said, like, proudly, I got my arm blown off.
Right. So
I love it.
Again, that's good because that shows that the player's style matches up with your own. That you guys are on the same wavelength.
I can imagine some people going like, hey, ooh, that's what, your arm's been blown off. Like, what?
Yeah.
No.
Right. And they, of course, so yeah, there's that agreement. And the final thing, violate player expectations and violating them. Now, this is kind of an interesting one because it's sort of like going back into the Caleb, the difference between how I'm GMing, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong. In the Wild Hounds campaign, I've been tried to give you guys make you aware of what
the choices are,
what the options are. Yeah, what the options are, what the choices are,
and the possible consequences.
Possible, but I don't like.
You don't say if you take this path, this will happen.
Yeah.
If you take the other path, this will happen.
Right. I kind of, when I GM, is what I tend to give I tend to re-emphasize what players have already, what their characters would reasonably know. Like, if your character is very savvy, a lot of tactics knowledge, I would give you an indication. Well, you could storm the front, but that would obviously have a lot of casualties. But it would be the most direct, and
you go in the roof.
It'd be the fastest way. You go through the roof, but you have to be stealthy. And if you failed, you'd be compromised. And they could take out the hostages easily. So more risk, more reward. Versus the more direct, relatively safer route. Yeah. So that's what I kind of do. So I'm going to dub this more the BioWare approach, where if you ever played a BioWare RPG or Black Isle before then, everything from Planescape Torment to the Fallout games to Knights of the Old Republic, Dragon Age, Mass Effect. They tend to make you very aware of what your choices are. If you go do this, it will help. It will give you points in light side or dark side or Paragon or dark side or Renegade points.
In Mass Effect, they color code your choices.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they do that in Knights of the Old Republic. I mean, it's light side, dark side, literally. So, and in Dragon Age, there's also obvious. They give the players a lot of information on how their choices will impact the world, and so that's kind of what I've been doing.
Caleb has been going a different route.
Right, because Caleb, we it's another spoiler, it's an Eclipse Phase game, and we're investigating a massive conspiracy. A conspiracy that's based, I don't want to spoil it, but it's like people who are engineering very bad things, doing very bad things. And so we've been going from place to place trying to follow the clues, the trail of breadcrumbs to figure out who's been doing who's
doing the bad shit.
Who's doing the bad shit and how do we stop them? And the thing is, we're given choices, we're given multiple leads. Like, we can go to this station and talk to these people, or we can infiltrate this station, and try and do this. And we sometimes have some indication on what's going to be more combat heavy or not, but we haven't. It's nowhere near that.
Especially what happened last time. I'm not going to say.
Well, actually, I mean, I did post on the forums what the aftermath was. We basically, if you go to the forums, we have a thread on Eclipse Phase in the RPG section, and I've been posting I've posted 2 excerpts so far of what my character is. Bartleby. He is a Lost Generation psionic, kind of mentally unstable. Very very paranoid. Sort of survive at all costs kind of character.
And I'm Preston,
a socialite octopus, uplifted octopus. So. Yeah, here's the classic Caleb thing. We had 2 choices. One was to press on to one research station called Clever Hands, and track down one. There were like 3 possible leads. Clever Hands, and there was a large city called Nectar, and then there was one lead where we were on the station Miter. And in Miter, we were researching a scientist that was part of the conspiracy, had been paid by the conspiracy to do research for them. And we broke into her lab, read her log files, basically, and found out that she had gone to the surface of the moon to dig up Titan Tech. And if you know Eclipse Phase, Titan Tech is basically Skynet that's 1,000 times worse. Like
Skynet mixed with that
biomechanicals,
like that virus movie from 1999.
Yeah, and Dead Space kind of craziness. So she was going to the surface of the moon to dig up some more samples of this Titan Tech, and we were like, well,
okay, it's like find it, like go okay.
Well, we could ignore that and just go to Miter, or go to Clever Hands or Nectar, or we could, I thought it would be prudent to get in our little ship and go check it out. See, we knew where she was, exactly where she'd set down. So I figured, let's just go down there. In the worst case scenario, she's infected and we'll have to shoot her. That's not going to be a problem. I mean, there's like 1 of her and 5 of us.
Wrong.
Yeah, so I won't explore what happened exactly, but basically she led us on a long ass. She made a lot of distance and she found some new friends, and bad things happened. It was a very brutal. We basically went into a boss fight. And
it was boss.
It was pretty boss, but we had no idea. We had no indication that it was going to lead into something that fucking dangerous. As soon as we got some indication that she was infected and that she was, on the move, heading towards civilization,
it was too late to pull out.
Well, at that point, I mean, our whole purpose of that we're agents of Firewall. Our whole purpose is to stop shit like that. So we had to pursue her. So there's no time to call for backup or anything. So we by pursuing that lead, we went into a major boss fight, and we didn't know that ahead of time. Now, I wouldn't have done that per se. I would have given you more clues to indicate, like if I was doing this in the Wild Talents game, I would have given you guys lots of clues or lots of options to find out. Oh my God, she's it's a boss fight. She's made allies. She's got this weapon. She's got blah 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 blah. But what Caleb did isn't wrong. I mean, I thought it was great, even though it was a really fucking brutal fight and my character went crazy. Not totally crazy, but it wasn't
crazy-ish.
Yeah, crazy-ish. Lost 25 points of sanity. What it was, why it really worked was because Caleb's theme is like it's a conspiracy. We're pawns of one organization trying to take down the pawns of another organization, and nobody is as they seems. Everyone has misleading agendas. They're doing shit behind the scenes while we're doing our shit. And so the idea is while we have some agency, we're not totally in control of our own fate. That's what the kind of themes he's been reinforcing, that we're part of a larger tapestry of lies and deceit. And so by not giving us more indication of what we're going to get into, that emphasizes that theme, and I think that's great. Now, of course, the first time I realized this, I was kind of frustrated because I was like, I wanted to stop that bad guy. I wouldn't have let him get away, and we're like, fuck, it was too late to do that. We were, by the time we realized I couldn't chase after that bad guy, we were in no position to fight him or take him on. So, but that's not a wrong thing. That's just like, he's doing a different design thing. So, I mean, for you, Tom, what do you think the style choices, or what are the kind of style?
Okay, I'll say, the way my experience is with your game.
Yeah,
I have to think of the future and plan in a completely different way.
Yeah,
in the Wild Talents game, I know basically what I can choose.
Yeah.
I just have to think, okay, what could possibly happen? How much do I know about how evil Ross is? And so, but you actually kind of make the consequences pretty clear.
Yeah.
So, but
for example, in the Wild Talents game, your character has been forced by law enforcement into doing very morally objectionable things. And you realize you could stop doing that, but that would have personal repercussions for your character, and so you have to weigh that in. So, anyway, sorry.
So, yeah, but still, I have to think long and hard about what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because everything's going to have consequences and different benefits. So I have to do like a cost-benefit analysis
right.
on everything to determine what would be the best course of action.
Right.
With Eclipse Phase, I have to think about it, but I have to think about it in a totally different way. Now I have basically what our choices are, but now I got to think, okay, I know some stuff that could happen, but I also have to take into account the shit that we don't know. Which, mostly in your games, the shit we don't know it's not always huge. Like we always know, there's always going to be some hidden stuff we don't know.
Right.
But we can deal with it. It's usually a manageable size.
Right.
In the case of Caleb's game, it's one decision that apparently just looks like a minor alteration could lead us to a boss fight.
Right.
And we're going to have to deal with that.
Right.
So essentially, at this point, now in this game, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to start packing, a lot more weapons. I need to just basically make sure I'm ready for war every single moment of the day.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, that's the kind of thing. And that also is very clever.
Nanosheens. Totally getting those.
Oh, the Metasheens?
Metasheens, yeah.
Yes. The healing medical equipment, nanoware, like cybernetics, only even better. Yeah, that's the kind of thing and that's that's how Caleb's choice has really enhanced the role playing in the campaign, because it's changed your character, how you're role playing your character. So it's showing how you're changing. It's violated your expectations at the beginning, and now you're adapting to that style of play. And that's really like, oh my God, it's emphasizing the conspiracy horror angle of it, the mystery of it, which is great.
And truly making me want to trust no one.
Yeah, exactly. Which reinforces the theme.
In Wild Talents, there's some people I trust.
Right.
Some of the people in there I just know, no, these guys are solid.
Yeah.
And I would actually be really surprised and actually kind of weirded out if later they betrayed us after this much time.
What NPCs?
I'm actually thinking like the two cops
by
this point.
Yeah.
If they just totally sell us the fuck out. I would actually be like, oh, dude, come on.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be pissed off. And
right. That would be violating. That would be the wrong expectation to violate, because that would make no sense.
But actually, I would say in Caleb's game, if someone turned out to be a solid guy that wouldn't betray us, it would shock the crap out of me. But it would be great. Like, oh my God, I found an honest person.
Yeah. In this world of lies and treachery.
He's like, we found one of the rarest flowers of all.
Yeah, exactly. So, design. So that's kind of the sums up the design versus style. There's no your style. It reflects what you like in in gaming, what you get out of running games. I mean, again, for me, obviously, I make players confront all these hard moral choices, because that's what I'm really interested in, to see if players will I will be the hero and I will do the right thing regardless of the cost. Or I'm like,
I'm gonna live.
Yeah,
I'm gonna live and I'm gonna get rewards.
Yeah. And that's endlessly fascinating to me. Caleb's obviously wanting to emphasize, like, we are being manipulated. Everything is, going.
But that's one thing I love about both of you is both of your GM styles.
Yeah,
is no matter what I make as a character, by 5 sessions he would have changed somehow.
Yeah,
maybe not in 5 sessions, maybe not fundamentally changed, but changed enough that I'm not the same character I was 5 sessions ago.
So that's in the next episode, I think we'll get into more of like designing adventures for a campaign and like talking about how to make player characters change over time. But yeah, that's sort of that's a good point.
Because I was thinking of Kyrop.
Yeah.
I kind of was going to have him as a monster that has to hide.
Yeah.
But that 5 sessions later, that wasn't exactly what I was doing.
Exactly. Yeah. You that's one of the reasons why I know they're getting a little off topic, I guess kind of off topic, but from our I
still think it kind of fits.
That's why when players write these incredibly long, elaborate backstories for their player characters at the beginning of the game, I just like, because your character, you have to grow into your player character in a sense. Like you don't know who he is until you actually play him and you get a sense of what you want to do with him as a player. Like for me, Bartleby has been real. I've only now beginning to get a sense of what he's like. His central dilemma, I've been playing him as obviously a ruthless killing, machine, psionic,
that I think is solid.
Yeah. Because I mean, my character was like the backstory I wrote was that he was rescued by Firewall. He was going to get killed, but they rescued him, and now he believes in Firewall. The thing is, he also has this delusion that he believes his sister was kidnapped by the Red Queen in a simul space. But the thing is, in reality, he doesn't even know if he had, in reality, he may not even have a sister, and the Red Queen is who the fuck knows. So he's made up this entire delusion in order to, and it's only the last session I realized he doesn't want to be known. Like, he's part of the Lost Generation, which is in the Eclipse Phase universe, basically people that are raised in a artificial reality that was sped up. Time was sped up so that it was 16 times faster. So in 3 years they experienced 18 years, or 6 years they experienced 18 years. So because they wanted to repopulate Earth after 95% of the population, they wanted to repopulate it quickly. The only thing is all these kids were fucking crazy, and most of them were killers. And the thing is, he doesn't like being perceived as a killer and a monster. He wants to be a good person, but he just doesn't know how. So this the struggle between being civilized, and because he looks up, he identifies with Firewall. So now I figured out, he wants to be a good guy because Firewall saved him. He wants to be like Firewall. And so he's trying to do everything like Firewall, and now he's just this, fragile on the inside, kind of complex, weird character. So, anyways, but it took me like 10 or 12 sessions to figure that out.
Well,
so you have to.
I remember, like in Kairop, I wrote a huge backstory for him.
Yeah,
but it was more just this is what happened in his past.
Right.
But also, I started the game. He had pretty much, really turned into a different person.
Right.
Figuratively and literally.
Right.
So I was still kind of playing him fresh too.
Right. But your archetype changed. Like at first you wanted the monster lurking in the shadows, and now you become like a famous person. Yeah.
But then now I bought off that. I actually saved up the points and bought off that disadvantage.
Right. So so that's again how the style has sort of affected you.
And actually Preston, it took me a while to get him down too.
Yeah. So yeah, we can get into this more in the next episode as well, but for you, the listeners out there, well, I mean, before we go though, I wanted to like other GMs that you played with or anything else. What kind of styles have you noticed? What kind of stylistic changes that you like or you don't like? I mean, when you've been playing and running games, and we can talk about other GMs that we both played on. For example, Scott Glancy, he obviously is a little, obviously much closer toward not a little closer to the old school thing of like, this is based on history, this is based on research. You're a normal human. You can only do what normal humans can do. I mean, he does provide some help. I mean, he's not like poker face, won't tell you anything. He wants to have a fun time too. He's not like, you're going off 4 hours chasing Charlie Chaplin. That's what you decided to do. But I don't know. What do you think, sir?
I've played with many a GM in my time, obviously. There are some styles that I don't really care for. Like one is a bad combination. The person, he'll let you do whatever you want. Yeah. But he'll try to make that, like, he'll try to pretend like that was an integral part of the story, and you can obviously tell it wasn't. It's, I guess it's, I don't I don't want to ever be to people ever to think I'm railroading. So I'll have to make them think that no, this was totally exactly part of the story. And a lot of the times you can just tell. Like if we go off on a tangent because we think it's fun, or if we're convinced there's something there, and suddenly the GM just shifts gears and okay, well, like we're ready to go. Like you can just tell you really didn't plan on this, did you? And he's like, no, I swear it. Yeah.
So you don't want so basically like GMs that give too much player agency is kind of a problem for you. Like you want them to be able to push back to you to a certain degree. Yeah.
Like if we're in a game with you, and we start to go off on something, you will humor us, But I think you have that ability. You dexterously just kind of put us back on track, right? And you usually don't even have to railroad, or you make it seem like you're not railroading. You're very good at that.
Well, for me, again, my whole approach is based on this ecosystem idea where, and I know I've told this before, where actions have consequences, and everybody in this little universe of different actors, players and NPCs, are all going to be doing their own thing, and every action you have will have a consequence. So you go off on your own, well, the stuff you care about is going to suffer as a result. So.
Or another thing, if in your games, if we come across something that we suddenly get distracted by, you do indulge us for a little while. Yeah. Just for a little while. Like when we encounter, like I think the first time we encountered Balgrin. Yeah. And you made the unfortunate mistake of doing the voice that we've. Yes, that. You did. You indulged us. Yeah. But I think you also knew we weren't going to just hold up in this forever.
Yeah.
We would eventually, we get our fill and we'd go right back on.
Right.
And I think that's this kind of falls more against, player GM trust and us knowing each other. We're going to get back on track.
Right.
So it's okay to have all right, let's just have this. Okay, well, they're still eating the main course, but all right, we'll have a little dessert first. And
yeah, so I think that's one of the main style decisions a GM has is how much agency the players have versus how much agency the GM has, how much control is each side of the screen comfortable with. Do you want the players totally in control? Which you were saying, I haven't played in a game like that. I don't think that
the players are totally I don't either.
Well, I mean, you're just describing that one GM, some of the GMs who are like that.
Well, yeah, but I don't.
So,
you
don't like that, but
I haven't encountered it very often. But the few times I have, I do not like it.
Right, and on the other hand, there are the old school GMs that are like. My way or the highway. They're either railroading all the time, which is horrible, just a bad design decision, period, or the ones that never give you any feedback, the ones that are just like, you do what you do, I'm not gonna.
And that's the thing. I've only been in one game like that. It was a long time ago,
right,
just after high school, but I hated it,
right,
because he would say, okay, he let us do whatever we wanted. But if we were getting off on the wrong track, or we were gonna, missing the plot, he would just once again just sit there all right, you're doing whatever, and I hated it. Actually, it started grating on me. I guess it was because the look he was giving us was just this blank shit, and I started getting pissed off.
Yeah,
and that game ended after one session.
Right. So
I say it's my opinion. You've got to have feedback from the GM and the players.
Right.
Back
so
and forth.
That's kind of a style choice as a player. Some people are comfortable with that. Some people aren't. So
and you don't it doesn't have to be. It does have to be constant communication and whatnot. But we have to know that we are on track.
Well, I mean, again, that's a style thing, and I think there are groups that like that where there's no feedback, where they really have to they're just. They really are in hard mode. They really like that kind of stuff. But I mean, I love to hear comments from the listeners to see what kind of things they prefer. Do they like lots of player agency, no player agency? No feedback from the GM, or kind of the happy middle, or I say the happy middle ground, showing my bias. Where I let the players do, but shit happens. So that this kind of hopefully for those of you out there writing adventures and thinking about think about what you're doing in an adventure and what's a design choice and what's a style choice and what you want to emphasize in a game. If you're not giving feedback, if you're being like, I'm doing this hard ass thing where players don't get feedback on their actions, where they don't know if they're doing the right thing or not, and I'm running, a Dungeons and Dragons dungeon crawl, I'm either being like, I love the Tomb of Horrors and I'm, love seeing players die, or I'm a huge asshole, or both. So if you're not doing a mystery, or if you're doing Toon or something like that, like a happy bunnies and burrows, you don't really need to be a hard ass about it. So
no, and it's also it's also jamming for different groups.
Yeah,
the stuff I planned for my other group, I couldn't plan the same way for this one, and I'm still figuring that out.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely true. Your style, obviously depends on your player. I run games slightly differently. Differently when I'm doing convention games with strangers than what I do with a home group. It's pretty. I can't really.
You can pretty well predict our actions.
Yeah. Well, not always. There are times I don't. Well, the thing is, for me, I try and run adventures where I set up adventures where I don't know I don't have any expectations myself about what you're going to do. I'm prepared for whatever you do try to do. And to be honest, there are some times where you didn't go after the spaceship story until 2 sessions ago, and I kept
hey, there's a giant asteroid coming to Earth.
No, you deal with the other plots first. Yeah.
I will say the thing that Aaron pulled off with Jason, I'm not going to say what, but that conflict, I was so proud of him.
Yeah,
I really was.
Yeah, and that I didn't obviously expect. That's kind of, again, giving players a lot of agency. So just think about when you're writing an adventure, what is a design choice and what's a style choice, and what works for you, what works for the group you're going to run. What does your style reinforce the themes you want to do? Now, we've talked about some things, the BioWare versus the conspiracy mystery thing, the Caleb versus, Wild Talents thing, the Eclipse Waves versus Wild Talents thing. But there, a lot, we can go on and on, like Dungeons and Dragons. In the New World campaign, we did a very character sort of plot-based thing that wasn't, like, there's only a few dungeons in the entire campaign. And because the players in this group fucking hate them, and I don't mind tactical combat. Dan is running a D&D game on Sunday nights that I'm playing. It's almost entirely tactical combat, and I'm fine with that. So,
I mean, I'm okay too, but I can do it.
But no, you don't like it.
I don't. But it's not what I don't hate it.
You don't hate it, but you don't like it. You wouldn't go out of your way to play that.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, you wouldn't go out on Sunday night to go play that. So
no.
Where it's literally the first thing is like roll for initiative. That's the first thing we do for our characters most of the games. So, but I'm fine with that because I get to hang out and I get to try out the combat and I get to see how the game mechanics work, and that's fine with me.
But I love the shit we do in our group.
Yeah,
because it's mainly it's like we find interaction with each other and the NPCs to be the best part.
Right. Well, I mean, combat can work really too. Like that last combat in Close Phase was epic, I was really like, "Are we going to make this? This is ridiculous."
I prefer combat that means something.
Yeah,
that to me is the difference between a dungeon crawl and the combat we do. Like when we fight, it's not like we're not hunting for treasure and glory and to do tactical shit. We're fighting. It's like we know why we're fighting,
right?
And we know the consequences of losing. It's not just we'll die and have to be resurrected. There's actual real consequences in it, right. And that's what that's what I prefer,
right?
Because I'm sorry I missed that final Well, I was in prison.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Did I mention that?
Well, that's actually kind of been spoiled on the forums.
Yeah. I was in jail, but that final combat, I did come by and witness the end when people died.
Yeah,
and they're not coming back.
Yeah. People
are dead.
Yep. So yeah, I mean that works, but you don't want to have like an overly gritty thing where intense role playing, but characters die instantly or very easily. Like Call of Cthulhu characters where you have 8 hit points. You definitely don't want to have a lot of gunfights in that game if you want characters to mean something. So yeah. So I think we kind of given you guys some food for thought when designing adventures. I think
switch that around in your mouth for a while.
Yeah. The next episode we'll talk about. I know we'll definitely talk about designing adventures for a campaign, an ongoing campaign, how it's different from standalone, building on the themes you are. I know one of my big challenges when writing adventures for a campaign as opposed to one shots is not adding in new shit halfway through the campaign, because you got to like tie up the plot threads you've already established. Because the Wild Towns campaign, oh god, there's so much shit going on in this world, it's so awesome, you guys, but I've already got like 12 plot threads, so I kind of need to tie that shit up.
And we're not going to get to the one you want to get to.
The 12 that I want to get to all those too, but I want to get the other 30 that I'm thinking of as well.
It's a curse.
It is a curse, so because I'm a horrible monster. So
indeed.
Next up we will have Tom read a letter.
It's a letter, but it's a different kind of letter, and Ross will be involved in this.
Ooh.
Sorry about that.
And we'll see you guys next.
Okay. It's a letter, kind of, but I'm planning to do this kind of thing kind of differently. Is I'll be doing a series of top 10 lists, and these I won't be so much a letter as I have my list, and then I will talk about why I think each one should be where it is on the list, and then Ross has actually been invited into this one.
Ooh.
Yeah, so he can comment, rebut, or make fart noises if he wants to.
I don't know. I'm now they expect it, so I can't.
That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah.
So you won't do it.
So that'll violate their expectations.
Yeah, exactly. But this one is what I think are the top 10 most cinematic firearms.
Okay.
Now on this list, this is actual real weapons that I think people really think of, and this goes for gaming too, because when you're equipping a character for a modern game, forget weapons. That's one of the first thing you think of is which guns am I going to get?
Right.
And I think there are some that are mentioned more than others, and this is just my top 10 list.
All right.
Okay. So, okay, number 10, the Browning M2 machine gun. I say that I use this one because even people might not know what it's called. Everyone knows what this weapon looks like.
Oh, it's standard 50 caliber.
Yeah, standard 50 caliber machine gun.
Yeah.
It's like Paul Kersey used it in Death Wish 4. in
Right.
that big fight with the gangsters, where you have the guy carrying the ammo with him while he's just mowing them all down.
Belt fed.
Yeah, belt, or General Jack D. Ripper from Dr. Strangelove. When he was in his office and the troops were storming that Air Force base he was under command of, that's the gun he pulled out of his golf bag.
I thought that was a 30 cal.
No, that was a Browning M2.
Huh.
And he was totally holding it wrong because he's holding it where the heat exhaust is.
Yeah.
The same thing that Paul Kersey did that also in Death Wish.
Right. Well, it's supposed to be mounted.
It's supposed to be mounted.
It's not a man portable
But I think,
weapon.
but it's the reason it's on my list is everyone knows what it is, even if they don't know what it's called.
Right.
And it's also in its 50 caliber bullets. So
yeah, no.
The last 20 minutes of the Rambo 4 have taught us what 50 caliber rounds really do when they hit someone.
Yeah. That had a boat with a twin linked 50 cal on it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I think that qualifies it as a cinematic weapon.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, number 9, the HK MP5. Because once again, this is another weapon. Everyone knows what it looks like.
Right.
And it's, I think, and of course, Die Hard movie was the primary weapon of the Die Hard movie.
Of the terrorists.
And John McClane had one through most of it, too.
Yeah, because he killed one and took it. So.
Exactly. Now I have a machine gun.
Yeah.
But it's one of the most, widely known and used weapons.
Submachine guns.
Yeah, submachine guns in the world.
Right. I mean, it's a standard for SWAT teams and law enforcement. And
counterterrorism units. That's
right.
That's a primary weapon.
It's, well, I wouldn't say primary, but I mean, it's certainly popular. I mean, I don't think there's anything that is the single primary weapon because there's so many.
Well,
the thing about the MP5 though is there's so many variants. Yeah.
But that's why I mentioned I'll say it's the HK MP5 and variants.
Okay. Because if anything, Call of Duty has taught me, it's that there's a fucking lot of MP5 variants.
Yeah.
Personal
Heckler
weapon.
and Koch make a good weapon.
Yep. True.
But that's why that's on my list.
Word.
And number 8, the M16A1.
Yeah.
Once again, everyone knows and actually most people will recognize this weapon by sight and name.
Right.
They see it, they know that is an M16.
Right.
Now, it's not used in the games a lot. I haven't had any people where they use it, unless I like to use it with the M203 grenade launcher clipped on.
Right.
And of course, Tony Montana made the weapon famous, I think.
Right, exactly, with the M203 grenade launcher.
But it's one of the most well-known assault rifles in the world.
Right.
And that's why I think it's on the list, because anytime anyone uses this weapon, you know exactly what it is.
Right.
And it's almost universal. Most people know what this is.
Right. No, I agree. One thing I find interesting about the M16, is you see images. Back in Vietnam, it was you saw the people carrying the U.S. soldiers carrying it as the standard, the basic weapon. But like you see it now, actually being used in the world, like by soldiers, and they put bullpup attachments on it. They put all kinds of scopes and accessories on it, like in Afghanistan and Iraq. They have I'm not like a firearms guy. I don't own any guns. I'm not opposed to it. I just don't have the money for it.
Exactly.
But a lot of people in the firearms community call people that put on too many accessories space. They may call those guns space guns. It's kind of a derogatory term. Oh, you've got a space gun because you put all this fancy holster on it, bullpup attachment, laser sight,
Night
scope,
sight,
and all this other useless shit. But like the soldiers in Iraq, they really fucking put a lot of mods on their gun, and I find that interesting how you wouldn't necessarily recognize the M16 of Iraq as the one that is in Vietnam, because it's really it's the M16, but it's really changed over the years. So,
and a good gun does evolve.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, number 7, the Desert Eagle .50 AE. I should not have to explain why this is on the list.
Oh my god!
Because I think it's because people hear it and it's a 50 caliber handgun. Doesn't mean it fires a 50 caliber rifle round. But it is a 50 caliber pistol round.
Yeah.
Different, but it's still it's like the heavy handgun people know about.
Right. Yeah.
Bullet Tooth Tony and Snatch, even
right.
Just .50.
Right. Now, again, what's interesting about the Desert Eagle is you have that cinematic thing. but a lot of people think it's a useless handgun, in real life because it's too big and it's too exotic.
And it really takes some skill and practice to use.
Right.
Because it's so heavy and so big.
Bullets themselves are expensive.
And in fact, I noticed like the bottom of the barrel has to be weighted down so the recoil doesn't fling your arm up into your head.
Right. Now, what's interesting though is in role playing games is that they never put the weapon stats almost never reflect the negatives of the weapon.
No,
but they always give it like a ridiculous damage, like Call of Cthulhu, or maybe it's even the Delta Green book. It's just fucking ridiculous. They give it like something insane, like 2d6 or 3d6 plus 4 damage for a Desert Eagle.
Yeah, Palladium did the same thing.
Yeah, it's like way out of line because it's a big bullet, but it's like in the same league as 357s, and like a Casul is like just as deadly, probably even better.
The 454, Raging Bull Casul.
Yeah, there's actually several variants.
Yeah.
There's several 454 Casuls. But anyways,
but still, it deserves to be on the cinematic list, I think.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Oh, okay. Definitely.
All right, number 6, the GE M134 minigun.
Yes.
Once again, Predator and Terminator 2 really made this weapon.
Predator 1 and Terminator 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's also it was no accident that it was Jesse Ventura in Predator and Arnold in T2 that used this weapon, because you have to be that size to use it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's not meant to be
It's not meant to be carried.
It's a mounted weapon. It's meant for helicopters and trucks and shit like that. Like, a human being, even Jesse Ventura or Arnold in his prime, could not carry more than a few seconds worth of ammo for it. Plus the recoil and all this other stuff would make it. Now, what's interesting again is like, I find about it is like how it started, and it was really Predator that started it, made it
Old Painless.
Yeah, Old Painless. And then it moved on to video games, and video games is like Return to Wolfenstein and Doom, where it's like, the next one of the weapons the characters can get.
The chain gun.
Yeah, the chain gun. And then from there, it's just like, even today, like, you can get, like, in Call of Duty games, there's a minigun you can carry.
But in Modern Warfare 1, it was still mounted to a helicopter. You got into the helicopter to use it.
Well, no, I think, in some of them, it depends on which one you're talking about, but some of them you can get them as like a bonus, or there's like the zombie mode and that's one of the weapons you get in the zombie mode. So it just depends on which game you're talking about.
That is, that is an extremely cinematic weapon.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's interesting. In real life, there's like only 113 of them in circulation or something like that, and each one is, basically they're grandfathered in. They're illegal to buy and make now for personal use, obviously. And the 100 or so that are available, like the people who own them have special licenses to collector's licenses, basically.
But I got this really like loaded with bonus features copy of T2.
Yeah.
And it's got some the weapons training that all the actors had to go through.
Yeah.
And fun fact, it was James Cameron who volunteered to fire the minigun first.
Yeah.
And he said, and it shows him on this, like, he's firing this thing, and it's still, he's holding it. It's like a much lighter weight version.
Yeah.
But he's also got some support on it so he can hold it.
Yeah.
And he said, and he fired. He's like, that's it. The expert was bleep. He says, it's like fucking thing sucks all the oxygen out of the area.
Yeah. Yeah, in order to cool it. I mean, it generates a lot of fucking heat.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a reason why they aren't used in infantry units.
And I will even say, and I'm actually going to give a compliment to a Palladium book here.
Ooh.
Yeah, in Heroes Unlimited second edition.
Yeah.
Or the Ultimate Edition, I guess it was. They actually, on the weapons list, they have for the weapons creator, the minigun, and they say, regardless of what you may have seen in Predator or Terminator 2, a person cannot hold this weapon.
Yeah.
Now, this is a superhero. They mentioned it's a superhero game, so you could have super strength and do it.
Yeah.
And also, they're cool. So here are the stats for it. I will give credit where credit's due. They actually acknowledge you're not supposed to hold this weapon.
It's ridiculous, yeah. All right, cool.
All right, that was okay. Number 5, the 1911 Colt 45 automatic pistol.
Right.
This is a special mention because this is the 100th year this weapon's been in circulation.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
And a weapon that has been in this long in circulation with as little modification as it has gotten is worthy of respect.
Yeah.
Now, I mention this also in gaming because it's the weapon everyone's going to choose if they have a choice of pistol. Why? Because it's a handgun and it does more damage than a 9mm or a 38.
Well,
statistically, in just about every game, the 45 automatic does more damage than a 9mm or a 38 pistol.
Well, 38, yeah, but I think, well, I mean, it kind of depends, especially if you get a really clever munchkin would get, an auto pistol with full auto and then just like, burst fire, yeah.
But the weapon, the standard pistol everyone's going to pick up is
the one with the rolls the most dice, yes, which
and
is
that is the
45,
Colt
yeah.
45.
Right. Yeah, I think in Palladium games it's particularly bad. I think like a 45 does 46 damage, while like a 9mm does 2d6.
Yeah.
It's literally does twice as much damage as the 9mm, which of course
But
we're not going to bring logic
definitely
into this.
deserves the number 5 spot for me on the cinematic weapons list.
Yeah, all
All right. Number 4, the 357 Magnum. I should not have to explain why this is on there. Dirty Harry.
Dirty Harry, yeah.
Just 2 words, Dirty Harry.
Yeah, I mean, what else can you say?
I mean, that gun was out before that movie came out. But that,
Yeah, it would be awkward the other way around.
Actually, for several years.
Oh, yeah.
But that was after that movie came out, the sales quadrupled.
Oh, sure.
But they said it was. I was watching a thing about it. And they said the fun fact was people that bought it were too intimidated to use it.
Right.
Because they heard like could blow your head clean off.
Right.
And so they were terrified to shoot the gun because they were afraid this is probably going to break my arm when I fire it.
Yeah, I could see that.
But this is like the first gun that gets its own speech.
Yeah.
When you mention a 357 Magnum, most people will recall, I know what you're thinking.
Well, even if they haven't seen the movie, they know the speech. I mean, that's how powerful it is.
Like, did I fire 6 shots or only 5?
Right. It was interesting you mentioned like the sales of guns. Like, I think a lot of firearm manufacturers see movies as like a primary way to market their guns, and there's just so much written up in the movie.
Yeah.
I'll probably mention. This is perfect to mention the greatest website of all time, or one of them, is the Internet Movie Firearms Database.
Actually, I'm a frequent goer of that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Because you can look up almost any action movie or any movie with guns in it, and it'll tell you exactly what gun all the characters were using. Like, if you look up the Expendables, oh my God, it's insane.
Packed.
Yeah, it's every single character's gun, every weird little weapon. Like even you and I, we can recognize most types of guns. We may not, like, that's a 45, that's a 9mm, that's a Glock, or that's
this
a
is
Beretta.
like the model number.
There's a lot of what grips they were using, like how the weapon was accessorized, and the knives that were used. I mean, it was oh my God.
Yeah.
It's great
But
stuff.
now we're on the top 3.
Ooh.
Number 3, the AK-47.
Yeah.
And I know this isn't patriotic, but that is the assault rifle.
It is the assault rifle of the 20th century.
And and anyone who's been in Vietnam will know if you compared the M16 to the AK-47, there is no contest. The AK-47 was the better rifle.
Well, I mean, overall, because of its reliability, but once especially
the early M16.
Yeah, the early M16, yeah, no contest, yeah, because of the mechanical failures.
But yeah, they said the AK-47 is one of the most reliable assault rifles ever made, and once again, everyone in the world knows what an AK-47 looks like.
Right, and then you have not quite as iconic as Dirty Harry, but you have the Lord of War thing describing the life cycle of an AK-47 bullet, which is great.
And there's also a guy, I forget the guy's name, but he came up with a book called The Gun, which is basically a written history of the AK-47.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's cinematic weapon, AKs, yeah.
And also, another fun fact, that the Kalashnikov, the guy that created the AK-47, and the guy that created the M16 are really close friends.
Oh, yeah.
They hang out they hang out a lot.
Yeah. No, I think Wired did a pretty good detailed write-up of that. And their Wikipedia articles are pretty fascinating. So,
yeah.
Anyway,
number 2, the 12-gauge shotgun. And I don't mention any particular cut type because it's just the 12-gauge shotgun.
Well, there's 2 variants. I mean, like...
There's variants, but to everyone, it's a 12-gauge shotgun. A lot of people don't even know there's another gauge of shotgun besides a 12.
Gauges, but yeah.
But
there's
it's
10 gauge to 14 gauge.
Whether it's a pistol grip, pump action Ithaca, whether it's a police Remington 12 gauge, a Spaz 15,
or just a breech loading double barrel 12 gauge shotgun. Yeah,
it's one of the most used types of weapons and ammo ever in movies and games.
Yeah,
And anyone who wants a shotgun gets a 12-gauge shotgun.
Right. Because, again, there are no other gauges.
No, there are not.
And they always, of course, really gritty game or really detailed games will have different, shotgun loads.
Solid slug.
Solid versus buckshot, and or Dragon's Breath. Dragon's Breath, I found out about in White Wolf.
Yeah.
And then there's YouTube videos of it now of people using
Or
Dragon's.
Rock Salt.
Or Rock Salt, yeah, that's in Call of Cthulhu too. So
And Kill Bill Volume 2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, but yeah, whenever anyone thinks a shotgun, it's always a 12-gauge shotgun.
Yeah.
So that's why it has to be number 2 for me.
Right. Okay.
But and now what I think is the number 1 most cinematic weapon of all, the 1921 Thompson submachine gun, the Chicago typewriter, the Tommy gun, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That weapon, I think, is the most cinematic weapon ever, because it is so iconic.
Right. It defined a genre of film, and it defines a genre of gaming, like Call of Cthulhu, Lovecraftian horror gaming.
It's the
Tommy
gun.
guns and dynamite. Yeah.
Tommy guns, dynamite, and shotguns.
Yeah. Well, shotgun's kind of like a distant third from Tommy guns and dynamite,
Yeah.
but.
The Tommy gun is I think it.
Yeah, because also it with the drum magazine you have the gangsters, but you with standard clip mags you World War II soldiers.
Yeah,
use Tommy guns quite a bit. So
and but as you said, it defined a period of America.
Yeah,
that gun.
Yeah, definitely.
And certain games like Call of Cthulhu, I think that's the weapon of Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, for the 20s,
for the most part, it won't save you,
right?
But you'll have it,
right?
If you're playing in the 20s, even if you're going up against a color out of space, your character's going to have a Thompson,
right? Exactly. He's
going to die with it, but he's going to have it.
Yeah,
and I just think that deserves to be number 1 on the list.
Fair enough. What's interesting, a lot of people don't necessarily realize, is that they're firing not the 45 ACP pistol rounds. Mm-hmm. So even though it's like a two-handed weapon, it's actually kind of underpowered compared to, say, like an actual rifle. I mean, the rifle, there's a big difference between rifle and pistol bullets. So. But
also, a lot of I've read some stuff about gangsters loved the Thompson because the ammo was interchangeable with the 45 pistol.
Well, exactly, yeah.
So you could just get a whole bunch of those rounds and take care of all your weapon needs.
Right. And of course they were doing close range encounters too, so
And also you could buy it through the mail.
Right.
Back in the 20s and 30s.
Oh, the good old days. So back before all this stuff.
And I know there's some weapons I left out that people might think I shouldn't have, like the BAR maybe.
Yeah,
I just don't. Yeah,
you're a monster.
I know, but those are good weapons, but I just don't think they're quite as cinematic as these 10.
Well, for the listeners out there, why don't you give us some feedback on what did Todd leave anything out? I thought I was kind of, to be honest, I was expecting a revolver at some point.
A57.
Well, I mean the cowboy revolver, like
the Colt Peacemaker.
Yeah, Peacemaker. Yeah,
I considered putting that on the list.
Yeah.
But these are the ones that I thought of.
Okay.
And I'm going to have another one next time. This one is going to be the top 10, I don't want to say fake, but fictional weapons.
Ooh.
This will be stuff that don't actually exist, but still people would recognize.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, the number 1 will be my katana and trench coat. So
I'm still going with guns.
Well,
I will do famous swords later.
Well, or melee weapons.
Yeah, I will do melee because the throwing star has to be on there because it created probably the greatest death ever filmed.
Yes. Well, everything is terrible.
Just I love the look on that guy's face.
Yeah, it's a YouTube video. Ask about it on the forums to find out what Tom's talking about. Or if you know, post on the forums or in the comments. And we're back. So, yeah. So we got some shout outs, and we have an anecdote or 500 or something like that. So.
I hope you people have time.
So for our first shout out, I'm going to mention a graphic novel that you can read online called Americas. It's about a student who is a big fan of a series of fantasy novels that are obviously a parallel to Harry Potter novels. And basically he's going from middle school to high school, and his friend moves away, is sent to military school, and so he has a lot of stuff to deal with. And they try to ban the novel at the school library, or at the local library, the town library. And so it's about dealing with this controversy, dealing with growing up, dealing with teachers. I bring this up because it's well written, it's well drawn, and Caleb likes it. I sent a link to him.
Go.
And Caleb's some of Caleb's friends who are also teachers like it as well, including like professional teachers who are like in their 40s and stuff like that. You know?
Well, I'll be damned.
I know, it's that good. So why aren't you reading this? You are a monster if you don't read this. So
There's a lot of monsters in this world.
well, if they won't be monsters if they read America's. So
So they'll become human beings if they read this.
exactly.
Okay.
So, Tom, you had one game.
Yeah, this is actually a RPG. It's Cthulhu Dark.
Yeah.
It is probably one of the most rules-like games I've ever played.
It's literally one double-sided page. You could put it on a double-sided page.
Yeah,
and fold it in half as a brochure. So
and you'll be learning more about it in our in the anecdote.
yeah,
But
we recorded 2 sessions.
Yeah, it's
of
literally pick a name, pick a profession, and have some 6-sided dice. You're good to go.
Yeah, that's it. Like, and it's yeah.
And by pick a profession, I don't mean and now. So write down these skills for your profession. No, write down a name, write down his profession, and you're done.
Yeah. So if you die, it's very easy to get back in the game.
Which was a good thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for us. 'Cause I don't know if the guy who wrote it expected it to go quite so paranoia-ish, like dying off so rapidly. But yeah, we went that way. And
it also encourages the other players to fuck over the other players.
Oh my god.
So bad.
It's so hilarious. We'll get into more of the mechanics with the anecdote. But I will say this. They have one rule for combat, and there's no monster stats either, because the rule is
if you fight the monster,
you die.
You're dead.
Yeah. So Lovecraftian horror, rules light. Go for it. Let's see. Next up, I will do a web series called 7 Minutes in Heaven. It's a writer
I'm
for
familiar with this.
Yes, Saturday Night Live, who takes a celebrity and they interviews them in a closet somewhere, and it's
it looks like the same closet.
It's the same closet, but I don't know where it is. I don't know. Maybe
This
it's
is a secret closet.
It's in the studio somewhere.
Purgatory.
Yeah. And they've had. I'll link to the one that I like the most, which is Elijah Wood. And it's just hilarious. Like I love hilariously. I normally don't like people being awkward and embarrassing in TV movies, but awkward interviews are great. Like
especially when they actually get into it.
Yeah. So Elijah Wood interviews him. The writer interviews him about the Hobbit movie and all this other shit. And every episode ends the same way, with the writer trying to make out with the guest, and it's so fucking hilarious.
Yeah. But
if you like Between Two Ferns with Zach Galifianakis, you'll love this too. So, anyways,
but what I like is, and I agree with you, that Elijah Wood is because Elijah Wood gets into it.
yeah, no, I think I've watched.
I mean, it's awkward, but he's into it.
Yeah, I've watched all of them, and all the guests are pretty savvy about it, and they really get it, and it's really fun. Everyone is totally different. Tracy Morgan's pretty insane too.
Well, he's just insane. Period.
Yeah, you had a movie you wanted.
Yes, it's okay. It's got 2 titles, but I'm going to go with the one I found it under, which was this was a while ago, but I feel it needs to be mentioned. It was when our movie galleries were closing, and they were selling off all of their VHS tapes.
Yes.
So you could get them for $1.
Wow.
So I picked up a lot of old horror movies, and one was called Sean and I were shopping.
Yeah.
And picked up this copy of a movie called Screamers. It's got this kind of melty.
Well, that's not what it's called. It's real.
Well, I know, but I'm going through what I picked up.
Okay.
So it's a box called Screamers, and it's not anything to do with the Peter Weller robot movie.
Right. Well, let me just give them the name give them the names so that people know from the topic.
But the actual title of the movie is Island of the Fishmen.
Island of the Fishmen. So that's what you Google.
Yeah.
So.
It was 1979, but the movie case we found was called, it had Screamers on it, and had this kind of drawn but kind of melty skin body on it screaming. And it's like, not only are they still alive, but they have no skin. And so we're like, oh, kind of the Incredible Melting Man, which I have watched, by the way.
Yeah.
So and it was $1.50 for this. So we got it and we watched it. Well, the funny thing is, when we started watching it, it has nothing to do with melting people that with no skin. It's about an island of fish people.
So the Island of the Fishmen was an accurate title.
Yes, and we thought, at first we thought, did someone, because it has like, before it gets to the title Screamers, it has like some stuff on this island.
Yeah.
And it has like these people with no names who we don't know who have a clue who they are, go into a cave and get killed. So we're thinking, okay, good, people dying. But I don't see anyone's skin melting off. And then it says Screamers. So okay, so we didn't get a movie in a different box, but we keep watching it, and then it's fish people. Not bad effects for 1979. I will admit that. But it's
fishmen, don't
it's fishmen, and we were waiting the whole movie for people to have their skin melt off, and it never happens.
Yeah.
I mentioned that because we waited to the entire movie, in through all the credits, just, wow, that really didn't have any melty people on it.
No.
And so I wondered, why the hell did they change the name and the plot on the box?
Well,
because it had all the actors, had on the back, it had the director, the producer, the year it was released, but it was Screamers.
But it's really Island of the Fishmen. It's an Italian horror film, according to its Wikipedia page. So part of that late 70s, early 80s,
a guy,
Italian schlock.
Yeah, a guy turning people into fishmen so they can swim down to this underground Atlantean ruin and bring treasure up for him.
It's awfully convoluted to do some, like, they do have scuba. They do have like
they have like diving bells and things like that. But this guy figures it's much easier and economic to get this scientist and turn people into fishmen so they can do it for him.
To be honest, though, like, the fishmen, that sounds marketable. Like, that's something you could sell. Like, I mean, maybe
like humanoids from the deep.
Well, no, like one to people who feel like they're a human trapped in a fisherman trapped in a human's body.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's that, and then there's like Russia and China.
Well, sign a contract. Okay, we will fulfill your dream if you will sign this work contract to bring treasure up.
Yeah, exactly.
And then after like a year, you can swim off into the ocean.
Especially now with all those furries and other and everything. I'm sure there'd be thousands of people lining up for this, and that's not to mention forced labor in China and Russia and other third world countries.
They do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that'll get rid of people clogging up their cities and streets.
Yeah, they clog up the oceans.
And it's like sharks will eat them, probably.
Hopefully,
keep their numbers down.
Yeah. I bet the Greenpeace people would do it, because then, man, those Japanese whalers wouldn't know what the fuck hit them.
No, they would not.
They'd be like, "Oh God, we're sinking! How could this happen? We didn't see any boats."
We're slowly but irrevocably sinking, giving us time to evacuate.
No, if you're a hardcore enough Greenpeace person, turn yourself into a fish man.
He's like,
you're gonna fuck some shit up.
Like, sink our boats, will you?
Yeah, you're gonna empathize a lot more with the whales. Especially if one of you gets caught in a fisherman's net. Then you're going to be like, all right, all fishing boats have to die. So,
and you can carry a knife and a belt with you.
Exactly. Oh, my God. Yeah. So Greenpeace people, turn yourself into fishmen.
Yeah.
Or you're really just a poser, not really.
But make sure it's a fishman. It's a fishman thing, and not we'll melt your skin off.
Well, I mean, that's obviously not a problem. I mean, that never happened, right?
Exactly.
So, anyway, I had two movies, too. One is Messiah of Evil, which is a 1973 Lovecraftian horror film that is public domain. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube or download it from archive.org.
Wasn't there zombies?
There were zombies in there. To be honest, I haven't watched it myself. It's just I've read the description.
You're doing an impure shout out here.
It's free. The whole thing's free and online for free. Have I mentioned that it's free? Legitimately, like, it's public domain. Like, you could even download it and then edit it and you throw your own stuff. Yeah, because public domain. Fuck it, why not? So deal with it.
God bless public domain.
Yeah, exactly. Deal with it, Tom.
It's dealt with.
Good. Next up, one more movie, Cargo, which is a sci-fi film.
I did watch this.
Did you watch it?
Not with you.
Oh,
I just watched it on my own.
Oh, okay, good.
Kind of a.
It's a German
movie in space.
Well, it's a Swiss movie, but it's in the part of Swiss. It was made by the German-speaking Swiss. Mm-hmm. So, Switzerland is just complicated. I'm sure our Swiss listeners are like, "Ah, you Americans, you acknowledge that we speak more than one language here." Oh, so
Exactly.
I don't know. I can't. I'm not going to try a German Swiss accent. I can't even begin to imagine what that. Anyway, it's about people who are on a cargo ship, deep space, to resupply a space station, and people start dying and weird things start happening. And
Earth's uninhabitable for some.
yeah, so everyone's living in space stations around Earth. It's Eclipse phase minus some of the transhumanist stuff, i.e., digital uploading, so that, but it's about like the closest movie I've seen to Eclipse phase.
My God, could you imagine a movie with that kind of stuff in it?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be good.
That'd be like you'd have to do. That would be complex. That'd be hard to pull off. Because there's so much shit in Eclipse phase that requires explaining.
A movie that does some of it. It's not a good movie.
Like just the digital uploading brain thing would be enough. Like
I'm gonna mention
not uplifting animals.
But I'm gonna mention a movie. I forget the title, but you'll know probably know what I'm talking about. It was an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie about cloning.
The Seventh Day,
yeah,
Sixth Day.
But it's some of that stuff where like it's downloading the mind, a previous recorded recorded.
Right. Yeah, the bad guys keep dying and they keep coming back, and they have the little tattoos in their mouth.
Yeah, but they don't remember dying.
Right.
So that's kind of along the same lines.
Yeah, no, I mean some of those individual tropes have shown up, especially there's a lot of novels out there that have that stuff. But we'll anyways, my last shout out is Bastion. It's a video game.
I've seen you play that on Steam a lot. Yeah,
it's on Steam. It took me about 6-7 hours to beat, but it's only like $10-15. It's very lavish. It's an action RPG, kind of like The Secret of Mana. Illusion of Gaia.
Yeah.
But with really good graphics, really great soundtrack, and it's fun. So, what are you waiting for? Dynamic narration. That's its gimmick. Whenever you do something, the narrator he's constantly narrating shit, but like if you die, like, but the kid fell off the cloud, but he came right back because he was too tough to die.
So is this as good a voice as like the rapper from Dead Island?
Oh, it's much better. It's like the dude, it's like the cowboy. It's Sam Elliott from The Big Lebowski, basically. No. Kind of.
Okay.
Close. Same cowboyish kind of thing. I'm just talking too much about this.
You're fine.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's a cool game. So check it out. Yeah, bro. Anecdote. Why don't you tell us, Tom?
Yeah. Okay. This was the Cthulhu Dark game we were playing. Caleb was running it, so you can imagine what that was like.
Yeah.
And
it was me, you, and Drew. It
was basically, the whole point of the game was, imagine if the shit in the Bible was turned over to Haster, who started to make it real. That's essentially everything that was happening. So imagine the Bible as interpreted by a great old one.
Yeah,
it's not good.
Yeah. It was 3 hours of oh shit. You died 3 times in the game.
I died 3 times.
Yeah, you were on your 4th character. This is like a 3 hour game.
But it's
the Earth was flat.
The Earth was flat, and there was an end.
Yeah,
an end to the world. So twice I drove off the edge of the world.
Yeah, second time you managed to jump out of the car in time.
In time, yes. But everyone died at least once.
Yeah.
And since this is a game that you can actually make people fail if you can roll against them.
Yeah, the basic mechanic is you always succeed on anything you do unless you go insane, in which case you're gone, or one of the players says, no, you don't succeed, here's what will happen instead, and then you have a roll-off on the D6, and highest one gets to say what happens. Mm-hmm. So...
and with our group, it was happening a lot.
Well, basically, yeah, I kind of predicted what would happen is that at first, no one did.
But as soon as the first person did it...
We were like, oh, that's how that works.
So, everyone's going to die now.
Yeah. And then... so that was a fun game. And then I ran one on Labor Day, which was metagames with 7 players at the height.
It was basically Dead Island.
Dead Island. You're on an island resort and then zombies. And, again, lots of people died.
That was one actually.
We had some RPPR listeners come in from Oklahoma City, so
I actually didn't die.
Then John was a zombie. So yeah, you were actually pretty conservative. Your first character survived, who was basically me, right? Like a horror writer director. So,
yeah.
So
no, I was the horror writer director.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You're basically like me as a player character.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. So
and the challenge was to not metagame so much because I think with our group we all know what to do in a zombie situation.
Yeah.
I honestly think if there was truly a zombie apocalypse to hit this Earth,
Yeah.
we would be completely prepared. We would know exactly what to do.
Well, if you've read Zombies of the World, it would depend on what kind of zombie species we were dealing with. I mean, if it's talking zombies, we're fucked.
Well, you run.
Yeah. Well,
You run in that one.
well, you
But if
can't
it's a
outrun
great-
them. They don't get tired, Tom. I mean, and they're
But
smart.
if it's a gray shambler
Well, yeah. Then you run. You're fine. They're slow. They're dumb.
or the running zombies,
The 28 Days Later zombies. Yeah. They're
because they're so freaking super infectious.
yeah. So it just depends, Tom.
Like, I know, like you had two zombie species that were in the must exterminate. It was the talking ones and the 28 Days Later one.
Yeah. Because they're
Must eliminate them.
Yeah, exactly. Because they are, if they were 20 talking zombies are the Return of the Dead living zombies. What was your favorite death in the Dead Island one? Player death.
It's a tough one. I have to say the guy that got crushed by the Jeep. That tried to clear the jump. Was trying to jump over the stuff and clear it. And the thing is, the guy failed because of someone else rolling off against. But the guy that rolled off decided, and here's what happens: you hit this. No, the jump succeeds. You just hit this guy, and he's dead.
Yeah.
That I think was
because that was literally his character was introduced there like 5 minutes. That was like 5 minutes.
Javier, wasn't it?
That was
Javier.
Javi, the player. No, the second character is Javier, the chauffeur. Chauffeur got to the drug sub, the narcotics smuggling.
It was the actual drug smuggler.
Yeah. No, the first character was the butler, and I can't remember what the butler's name was because he lived 5 minutes and then he died.
Yeah.
Javier lived all the way to the sub, and then Then the sub sank.
But I have to say, it's the Jeep.
Yeah.
It's the Jeep leap, jumping, doing a successful, very awesome leap over something, and then crushes someone to death.
That was pretty awesome. That was pretty epic, I have to say. So, yeah.
It pleased me greatly.
So, Cthulhu Dark, get it, download it, read it, and then have that ready whenever you want to do a crazy one-shot if you don't have anything else ready to go. And then see how many times you can die in 3 hours. Or not. Or see how many times you can avoid dying in 3 hours. So,
Exactly.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good
times.
So,
Good times.
that's a very over-the-top style. So you see, we're linking it back to the earlier discussion. So this has been RPPR episode 63, Stylish Substance. I'm Ross Payton.
I'm Tom.
Tom Church.
I'm trying to hide out from people, Ross.
You're doing a bad job.
I know.
Tom.
I'm on the internet.
Yeah, podcasting is not a great way to hide out.
Okay, well, those people I owe money to, just ignore everything I just said in this episode. Everyone else, take it, make it part of your being.
There we go. And we'll see you guys next time.
Let me see your business one.